News. Transfer news. Match previews. Legend interviews. Spurs winning. Press conferences. Covering everything Tottenham and England.
Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of the Spurs Chat podcast. This is another edition of Premier League predictions. Match week 3, we will be going through all of the 10 Premier League games that are going to be taking place over the weekend, 7 on Saturday and 3 on Sunday. I'm absolutely delighted to bring back, I should call you channel regular by now, Kenny. Kenny Ken, of course, YouTuber and Arsenal fan and a good friend of mine. Kenny, how are you?
I'm very, very happy. It's very nice to be with a fellow North London, fellow Islington boy. Anyway, I had to get that one in anyway. Two boys from Islington. You know, I know that I went the right way. I can't say the same about you, but I just like you to know that the London Borough in Islington isn't Arsenal territory. Just saying.
He's bantering me already. Off air, he was talking about Spurs winning trophies. I wish I'd have recorded that. I can't believe I've called an Arsenal fan my friend. Actually, that's another thing.
Hey, you're from North London. You should know that we're all part of the same family.
Kenny, I'm looking forward to having you do the predictions with me for match week 3. Of course, last week I took on Sean Wallace, the Chaser. I was hoping to come on this episode saying I beat the Chaser, but sadly I didn't. Of course, Sean is very knowledgeable. Sean got 2 correct results and 4 correct. He got 2 correct scores and 4 correct results, whereas I got 2 correct scores and 2 correct results. So that gave him a total of 18 points, me 14. So overall now, I'm now trailing to the guests, 29 to the guests, 28 to me. Kenny, looking forward to taking you on this week. Before we get into talking about the 10 games, what have you thought of the Premier League season so far?
So far, what I've noticed is that, you know, Euro 24's had a lot of effect on some of the big players. It's definitely had effect on our players, you know, despite the fact that Saka's featured in, you know, in the first game, scored a great goal and had an assist. He still looks a bit, you know, out of sorts. And even and Declan Rice looks completely, you know, shattered. And I've seen that with other players who come back from international duty, whilst there hasn't really been any surprise packages. I think the Man City have started with a whirlwind. You know, They're really, really looking to win the league, you know, 5 times in a row. Arsenal obviously are looking to sort of, you know, go one better. And I've noticed in terms of like Tottenham, I still don't know how Spurs didn't win that game against Leicester. The first half was probably one of your best performances. But, you know, we're probably going to get into it later. But I do think that maybe with Ange Ball, there's a few conundrums with your team that we'll talk about later. But as an outsider, I can hear some of the concerns from your fans.
I'm sure you have a soft spot for Spurs, Kenny. You can't wait to talk about Tottenham and Spurs winning trophies, can you? Now, let's get into it. 7 games will take place on Saturday, starting with the early kickoff. Of course, you guys are in action. Arsenal against Brighton, 12:30 p.m. kickoff at the Emirates. Brighton so far this season have won 2 out of 2 against Everton and Manchester United. Arsenal, of course, have won 2 out of 2 against Wolves and Aston Villa. How are you feeling ahead of this one?
I'm very confident Arsenal win the game because I'm not just I'm talking. If we talk from a Brighton's perspective, you look at their games against Everton and Man United, especially the Man United game. Man United were very unlucky to lose that game. I thought Man United were actually the better team. That it was actually 2 mistakes that led to Brighton winning that game. Remember, they nicked it in the 94th minute and they scored a goal where Harry Maguire fell asleep. But apart from that, you look at they got dominated in the midfield. I thought Brighton did. I think their defence were putting a lot of pressure. Man United were getting in behind, especially in that first half. And I look at that and I think that Brighton, you know, the fact that they sold a lot of their better players to, you know, bigger clubs, I think it's starting to tell. And it looks like a Brighton team that's in a bit of a transition. But, you know, 6 points out of 2 games is really good. However, when you look at Arsenal, we're now a seasoned team. You know, the team actually picks itself, especially the defence, especially, you know, the right back. Obviously, there's issues with, you know, with Zinchenko and in Timber? Do we play Zinchenko? Do we play Timber? Timber's better defensively. Zinchenko plays inverted. The midfield itself picks itself. You know, obviously we bought Moreno, but as you know, with new signings, he's already injured. Got injured when Gabriel fell on top of him. And then the front three, you look at Kai Havertz, he's number 9, sort of false number 9, and Saka picks himself. There's kind of a conundrum. Who do we play at left side? Is it Martinelli or Trossard? Martinelli, for me, you know, is a bit out of sorts. He's lost that yard of pace. Trossard has had a good second half of the season. He's very direct. He's got a better football brain and more ability, but the equaliser is Martinelli's pace. But for me, if I was to go for that game, I don't think Arsenal should have any problems. I really am pretty confident we're going to get there.
Kenny, when I read out these stats, it's quite incredible, really. Arsenal have won 3 of their last 4 league games against Brighton. Arsenal have won 18 of their last 20 top-flight games in 2024, only dropping points in 2 games, 0-0 against Manchester City and losing at home against Aston Villa 2-0. That is incredible form, isn't it?
Yeah, it's fantastic form, but if you look at the whole season in itself, and you marry in August to December 2023, we were playing catch up. We had to be in that kind of form because Liverpool were at the time were 5 points ahead of us. Man City were just a few points ahead of us as well. So, in order to get us into contention to win that title, we had to win all those games. And we won a lot of consecutive games. It's a fantastic record, but if we were to fast forward this to 10 years later, and they say who won a title in 23-24 season, they say Man City. So that's the thing. That's the kind of criteria Arsenal need to go by this season if they want to win the league. But just shows you can't afford to make any mistakes because Man City are a great side. They're beatable, but if you let them in through the back, if you let the back gate open, well, you're going to end up being runners up again. So it's great. It's great stats, great statistics. The Brighton results is very good because we've got strange results against Brighton, especially the Emirates. So their fans think it's their back garden because they come there and they actually turned us over a few times and got a draw, which stopped us from getting in the top 4 in 2019. And you benefited from that. But apart from that, we've won. But Brighton are very tricky. But that's when they had some really good players and they had a balanced kind of management in terms of first De Zerbi and then obviously Potter. This Brighton side for me is very much in transition. Plus, they got their main signing from Celtics already got injured in a really ridiculous tackle against Crawley. So for me, I look at Brighton, do respect it, but don't expect too many great shakes from them. But obviously don't write them off. But I do think that in terms of where Arsenal are going, we've got to be probably even twice as good as we were in 2024 because Man City are now really stacked with players.
Kenny, in terms of performances, were you pleased with the performances against Wolves and Aston Villa? Because it is fair to say that Emery has done a great job at Villa Park, and that it cannot be an easy place to go at the moment.
Well, the Wolves game was actually, it wasn't a great watch. It wasn't a great performance, but we did enough. And what we did really well against Wolves is we made ourselves difficult to beat by we pressed them off the ball. We made ourselves really compact. So even though Wolves had a lot of the possession, they didn't really get in behind us. There was a couple of really good. There was a good save from Raya in the first half from Strand. Their new forward, forward from Danish forwards. It's Strand. I'll get them anyway. But I know what the first high from this Strand. But anyway, he made a great save, and then he made another good save in the second half. But apart from that, complete control. We're the ones who had the quality. Saka scored a great goal, and also it was great assist for Kai Havertz to open his account. The Villa game was a very strange game because the first half, I thought Aston Villa and Arsenal played each other with way too much respect. Both teams were scared to get hurt on the counter attack. They didn't want anyone to get in behind them. And then second half, it was a case of our subs were better than Villa's subs. And then when Unai tried to win the game, that's what let us in, and that's how we won the game. But you can't talk about the Aston Villa game without mentioning the save from David Raya and the misses from Ollie Watkins. But he scores those goals. Who knows? Different game, And in terms of performances, a lot of our players still feeling Euro 2024. If you want to talk about our best player, I still think it's our goalie. But hopefully, the players who didn't, after the international break, will come back to the form that we had before the season ended.
Kenny, you mentioned Kai Havertz there, 10 goals and 7 assists in 2024. I know at one point the Arsenal fans weren't happy with him, his performances and his output. Has that all changed now?
He's still of divided opinion. There's still a lot of fans who haven't, forgotten the first half of the season. There's still a lot of fans who need more, because if you look at his career overall, if you go from Leverkusen, you look at Chelsea as well. The kind of player that we need, because remember, the buzzword Arsenal striker. Now, you talk about Kai Havertz stats. Well, for Kai Havertz this season has to do better, i.e. 20 goals and 15 assists, because he's got that ability. And if he does it consistently, then Arsenal fans will definitely cheer him. But, the theme at Arsenal now, and I'm sure it's the same at Spurs as well, if you wear the shirt, then that's it. You're a fantastic player. It's very difficult when you have that mentality to actually, constructively analyse a player, because, fans will just jump on top of you, because we're all in this age where we're all wearing the same uniform, we're all sing from the same hymn sheet. But for me, Kai Havertz, if we're not getting a striker, he has to do 5 times more than what he did last season. He's in his second season now. He knows how we play. It's time for Kai Havertz to show what he's made of. He's not that young player no more. He needs to fulfil his potential.
Kenny, Brighton are winless in all 7 of their top flight games in London last season. I expect that will make you feel even more confident. Now, before we give our score predictions, we are live on YouTube, on Facebook and on Next, so please do get involved and give us your score predictions as well. Kenny, do you want to go first or second on the score predictions?
You can go first. You can go first. I've always loved your show, and I always said to myself, I'm a guest. I'm in your carpet, and I always say that if you go in someone's house, take your shoes off at the door, and make sure you don't stain the carpet. So,
well, if you're a guest and you feel like that, you should be wearing a blue and white shirt for me.
That's a bit too much.
Score prediction. I was going to go for a 1-1, but I just feel like Arsenal are going to be too strong for Brighton, although they have had a great start. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 Arsenal win. It pains me to say that, but yeah, I'm going to be realistic about it. I think they're going to win 2-1. What about you?
I'm going for a 3-0. I think that we Brighton are going to find it very difficult to break us down. I don't think we're going to allow them to hit us on the counter-attack. We're going to defend a lot much better, and not make the individual mistakes that Man United made. So if Brighton can't break us down, if we're not making individual mistakes, I do think that it'll be like a bit ponderous for the first 25 minutes, but I do expect that our extra quality, we should win the game. So I'm going 3-0.
Rob is also going with me, 2-1 to Arsenal. Now, next game, Brentford take on Southampton. Brentford have beaten Crystal Palace 2-1, lost away at Liverpool 2-0, and Southampton so far 2 1-0 defeats against Newcastle and against Nottingham Forest. What have you made of these two sides so far in the Premier League this season?
Well, in terms of Brentford, all the talk really is about Ivan Toney. Is he, who is he going to? That's very important. But when you look at Brentford, they're actually a very good side. Can
I stop you there, Kenny? You say about Ivan Toney. It's very, very important to talk about this, I feel. He's about to join the Saudi League for a £40 million move.
Yeah.
What do you make of that? Because he's got so much quality. I think I would have actually liked him to be in a Spurs shirt this coming season, having seen him at the Euros. And I feel like he's got so much more to give in the Premier League. Is it right, and is it the best decision for him personally to go to the Saudi League now at this stage of his career?
Well, no, I don't think it is. I really don't think it is, because, the fact is that he's now playing for the national side and he's playing in Euros. I realise, I've just noticed he wasn't selected for the games in the, League of Nations. I don't know why that is, maybe because he hasn't played any football. But I always think that if you want to catch the eye of Lee Carsley, you've got to play in the Premiership. I don't understand what's going on this season. No one knows the conundrums. You know, there's rumours, unfounded, that there's an attitude problem and he's arrogant. Oh, big deal. He's a striker. What do you expect? You know, the fact is that he's had to fight for everything he's got. You know, he went to Newcastle, didn't work out. Then he's forged his reputation at Northampton, I think, at Peterborough. Then from Peterborough, he's got that move to Brentford. You can't say that it hasn't worked out, that he hasn't established himself in the Premiership. For some reason, no one's going for him. I know Chelsea were looking to go for him because he fitted in their wage structure, because all those players that are earning about 300 grand, 200 grand, you know, Clearlake want to get rid of all those players. So Ivan Toney's only on 20 grand. I'm hearing, obviously, don't take my word as gospel, but you would think that if Chelsea say, look, we're giving you 70 grand, that would, you know, would tempt him. However, if you've got a situation now where the Saudis are saying, well, hang on here, you're an England international, you're probably one of the, you know, like I said, catalysts to England getting out of that difficult game against, you know, Slovakia. They're probably offering him 250, 300. No,
madness. Yeah.
No, if Chelsea are only offering you 70 grand, and the other, you know, Saudis are offering you 250, 300 grand, even if right, you want to forge your reputation in the Premiership, you want to be considered for England selection because Harry Kane can't go on forever. You're going to think, well, this could set me up for life. I only have to be there for a couple of seasons. 300 grand.
Would you have liked to seen Ivan Toney in an Arsenal shirt?
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely, because I do think that he's a missing link. There's no guarantees in football, but you would have thought if he can score goals like that at Brentford, then I'll definitely score goals at Arsenal. There's a lot of rubbish. I mean, I was watching Sky Sports today where one of the guys came out with absolute nonsense about he scored 20 goals and 6 of them were penalties. And they're still 14 goals. I mean, our Jesus at Arsenal, that's his best tally. And that, you know what I mean? And that's an aside. Man City and Arsenal.
He can also score a penalty, Ken, without looking.
Well, exactly. But the thing with Ivan Toney, I would definitely like him. A lot of Arsenal fans are talking about Ivan Toney. There's fans talking about Osimhen, and obviously there's fans talking about Enquiries, you know, the Swedish striker. However, Ivan Toney's always been my first choice, so I am disappointed that we haven't gone for him. But again, it's Mikel Arteta. If Arsenal really want a player, we would have been hearing about speculation. You know, we sort of rewinding back to May. We didn't. We all knew Declan Rice has come to the club. The speculation, you know, sort of started before the end of the season, before West Ham played in that Europa Conference League final. We knew he was coming. I haven't seen any evidence of any striker coming to Arsenal, which means our business is concluded. But in terms of like Brentford itself, you know, they've got Bomo. It's quite ironic that Wizza, not a Forest were in for him, and Brentford turned down a bid for him. But he'll start tomorrow because obviously the player that they bought to replace Tony, Thiago, got a knee injury, so he's out to the end of Christmas. But when I look at Brentford, they're playing at home. You know, for me, they do play the right way. They play the football I like. You know, defensively, Pinnock. I mean, I don't know where he's been all my life, but this guy is like a rock in that defence. He's probably only played in the Premier League for the last 3 years. Where's he been? This guy looks like an accomplished defender, and you'd have thought that he would have had all that experience going back 10 or 15 years. But when you see him, you're thinking, why wasn't anyone in for him? Why wasn't anyone scouting this guy? Because he'll do a good job for a Premiership team. But for me, home form should count. And you know, if Ivan Toney does leave, then it takes away that kind of speculation around the team. In terms of Southampton themselves, you only have to look at Aaron Ramsdale, who's joined them, £25 million. Clearly, McCarthy's not the right fit for Russell Martin. So Aaron Ramsdale taking goal. And let's not forget, Southampton have got some good players as well. Stevens in defence, a seasoned pro in the Premiership. Benderek, a Polish international, and also you got your guy Kyle Walker-Peters, Edmonton boy, they're all season pro. How they managed to get themselves in a situation they got relegated, I'll never know. The problem with Southampton is up front. I don't think Armstrong's good enough, and Berrington Diaz, for me, is a player that would do a great job for you in the Championship, but Premiership, I'm not convinced about Berrington Diaz. So in terms of like Southampton, they are going to be pleasing the eye. They are going to, like make themselves difficult to beat. But I think in terms of the extra quality, I think at home you've got to go Brentford, haven't you?
I think so. Well, the head-to-head match facts and stats, Brentford have won the last 3 Premier League meetings without conceding, including 2 3-0 victories at home. The Saints are winless in their last 8 trips to Brentford, drawing 3 and losing 5. Their last away win in this fixture was a 3-0 victory in League One back in April 2011. League One in 2011. And Wissa scored in 2 of the previous 3 matches against Southampton. For this one, Kenny, I'm going to go for a Brentford win. I'm going to go 2-0.
I'm going to go. I think that Southampton do have. Well, they haven't scored this season, which is, even though they haven't played too badly, they're goalless. But I'm going to go for maybe because Brentford do have a few gremlins defensively, especially from sometimes from set pieces. So I'm going to go for Brentford 3, Southampton 1.
Can I ask you what you think about the Aaron Ramsdale deal? Has that come to a bit of a surprise with you? Because
not at all. It's the best thing for him. You think about it, Aaron Ramsdale. Maybe you won't agree with me. You watch more England games live than I'll ever have, but I do think that there's a vacancy as England's number 1. I'm not convinced that Pickford, is far out England's number 1. Yes, he's good with his feet, but that's debatable because he doesn't exactly pass the ball in a way that Ederson does. He just hits it long into the abyss. And Aaron Ramsdale is no different to that.
Yeah.
So in terms of like ability, he's got the experience. But I do think if Aaron Ramsdale went to Southampton, then Lee Carsley is going to be able to be watching him on a regular basis. That way, the shirt's up for grabs. For grabs. And Aaron Ramsdale, if he stayed at Arsenal, he's going to rot. Because I'll tell you now, there's absolutely no way he will ever have been our number 1. If another manager was there, who knows? But under Arteta, hell no. Arteta likes his goalkeepers are good with their feet. Arteta is exactly like Klopp, exactly like Guardiola. Your goalkeepers have to start attacks. They have to, you know what I mean? And if they can't be that 11th player, then you can't play for them. Simple. Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Jordan Pickford, but he makes too many mistakes, in my opinion. And I tell you what, if I was an Everton fan, I'd be so frustrated. Like last week at Tottenham, I thought they were terrible at Spurs, Everton last weekend. And Pickford, of course, fought for one of the goals. Jack writes here, he thinks that Southampton will win 2-1. And King Hoddle.
That's interesting, actually.
Yeah.
And King Hoddle, because if they make a bit of sense, because that kind of games, the kind of game can go either way. It could be a situation where Brentford are winning 1-0, and then in the last 10 minutes they make a few substitutions. Southampton knock on that door, get a goal in the 85th minute, and then anything can happen when it gets to injury time. So Brentford Southampton is that kind of game where it can go either way.
King Hoddle writes Brentford 2, Southampton 1. Kenny, next game, Everton against Bournemouth. Now, Everton have had a really poor start to the campaign, losing on the opening weekend 3-0 at home against Brighton at Goodison. And then, of course, as I mentioned, losing at Spurs 4-0 at the weekend. So they've conceded 7 in their last 2, haven't found the back of the net yet. Bournemouth have had 2 1-1 draws against Nottingham Forest and against Newcastle. You could argue that they could have beat Newcastle the other day, but of course it went to VAR and they gave a handball. I didn't agree with that. Did you?
Rules are rules. Rules are rules. If it's
okay,
I'm very strict on handball.
It's a top of the shoulder.
Yeah, I saw it. If I looked at it and I thought, right, if it was right in the armpit, I've got no problem with that. But
the armpit was Sissoko in the Champions League final, as we all know. But this was the top of the shoulder. surely that is not classed as a handball. I found that decision quite ridiculous.
It is, but you know me. I think the Premier League, and the referees need to sort of like say, right, doesn't matter whether it was intentional or unintentional. It's football, not handball.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, then every time it hits your hand or part of the arm, which is designed to be part of the hand, then I think you should give. Then I think a penalty should be awarded. That's what I genuinely believe. However, when I look back on it, you've got a point. Yes, it was a strange one. It was a very strange decision, but it was instantaneous. It was one of those ones where they made their mind up. You know, it wasn't like the Brentford Crystal Palace game where the referee got so excited where he just went boom, and then by the time he blew the whistle, Eze's put the ball in the back of the net.
Yeah.
I think this one was a bit more, one of the ones where I think, there was a consideration. I'm backing the referee on that. But in terms of like Everton, well, you only have to go to Euston Station last Saturday where, their fans weren't having it. And I don't blame them because, Everton are a very proud football club. When you look at the teams in Merseyside, Liverpool's the international club. They've got fans from all over the UK. They've got fans from Scandinavia, Ireland. Obviously, they've got fans from USA, all over the world, the Far East. Everton is the United Club of Merseyside. Their fans around Merseyside, parts of Lancashire, North Wales, and probably kids whose dads were former Scousers. That's their support. So, of course, they can have a bit of pride. But when you look at Everton itself, Carlo Ancelotti deserves a medal. I mean, they finished 9th under Carlo Ancelotti. Did a double over Arsenal. Since then, they've been fighting relegation every year.
Yeah.
Every year, without fail. You look at the players they got. Calvert-Lewin, a very good footballer. Gay, a very good footballer. You got Keane, his experience. You got Pickford, who's got a lot of experience. You got McNeil, who played for Dyche and thing. There are some good players there. What is going on at Everton? What the hell is going on? They got experienced defenders. Brentford is a defender that everyone was looking out for. And you got Tarkowski playing for England. What is going on?
In fairness to them, though, Kenny, they did only have 14 registered first-team players for the game against Tottenham last weekend. So they had a lot of injury problems. However, they are moving into their brand new stadium at Bramley Moor Dock August next year, at the start of next season. They certainly don't want to be doing that in the Championship, do they?
Well, that's the thing. I say it respectfully, and you're probably not going to like what I say, but when you look at teams, top-flight teams, the constants are Everton and Arsenal. You have to say it, Everton and Arsenal. If you go back like 80 years, it's Everton and Arsenal. So I can't imagine a Premiership without Everton. But you can't always leave it to the last day of the season. It's eventually your luck's going to run out. Your luck's going to run out. And the thing with Everton, even though they've got the players, and players who do it, the fact is, Dyche ball is basically survival football. It's basically survival football. You can't just play survival football and expect to, one challenge for a European place, win a trophy, and stay in the division. You've got to have more than that. And in terms of Everton, they're hamstrung as well by the financial constraints. That every season they're contributing PSR. So that's another constraint. So it's no wonder there's chaos at that club. Absolute chaos. But in terms of the team itself, you mentioned the injuries. I think the team's not solid. I look at Bournemouth. Now that's a team. They're Abiola, their manager, has got a good group of players. Obviously they sold Solanke to yourselves, but it hasn't hurt them. They still got players like Semenya. They still got players like Tavernier. They've also got, Kepa Arrizabalaga from Chelsea. So obviously now he's going to come to us. And they got a very, very, very settled side. And they play football. They play football. So when I look at the chaos at Everton, I look at Bournemouth, and I look at the players they have. They signed a new striker, was it Evan Nilsson or something. I don't know if he's featured too much, but I do look I do look at Everton. I think, right, they're probably going to pepper Bournemouth in the counter-attack. They're going to rely on Harrison as well. If Everton don't score that first goal, I could see the crowd at Goodison Park getting restless. It gets to the players. And you know what will happen in the second half? Players they have the nervous energy from the crowd, nervous energy because they're trying too hard. I see Bournemouth winning this. I really feel Bournemouth winning this because I do think that on a counter-attack, Bournemouth do have the quality, and what I say, the quality players, better players than Everton. You look at but people are going to say, what you're saying, Everton have got this player, this international, this. Yeah, I know. But for the last few years, that has been Everton's team. And since Ancelotti's left, they've always been fighting relegation.
Yeah. Well, Kenny, head-to-head, Everton have won 6 of their 7 Premier League home games against Bournemouth, with the Cherries' single victory at Goodison Park coming on the final day of the 2019-2020 season. I think I'm going to go for a Bournemouth win here because Everton was so poor at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium last weekend. I can't see that changing dramatically, even though they might have a player or two back. And as you mentioned there, Kepa will be making his debut, hopefully, against Bournemouth. And I believe that the Bournemouth manager, Iriola, there, has done a fantastic job since his arrival. I'm going to go for a 2-0 Bournemouth win. What are you going to go for?
I'm going to go for even something more spectacular. I'm going to say that Everton will score. They will get a goal. But I expect Bournemouth to win 4-1. I really do.
4-1?
The team's a mess. The team's an absolute mess. I mean, seriously, if they don't score that first goal and the crowd get on their backs, I promise you, on the counter attack, you saw some of the goals that Brighton scored 2 weeks ago. If you look at Everton, the defeats out of Goodison Park, it's always the same sort of goal they concede on the counter attack, especially at Goodison Park. I can't see anything other than Bournemouth in. And if it carries like this, I think there's going to be a conversation. I do think that, the Everton board and Dyche, they're going to have a conversation with Dyche because you look at Dyche's record, he's kept him up. Come on, Everton Football Club, big club like that, used to be one of the big 5. What? Is that their level to avoid relegation? They've got to may look getting someone else in.
Yeah.
It's funny. I don't see Everton winning this. I see them going 3 games, 3 losses. I really don't see them winning it.
Yeah. It's funny, Kenny, I spoke to a couple of Everton fans recently, obviously before the Spurs game, and I said, what's the expectation for this year? Fully expecting them to say, we've got to push on and we've got to try and get it into the top half of the table and perhaps push for Europe. And the answer all the time was, avoid relegation. And that's where they're at now. And it's a shame to hear that, particularly when, in the last 12 months, I've been up there a couple of times. I visited the new stadium. It looks absolutely fantastic. They certainly will not want to be starting.
Let's not forget, Leicester City built a new stadium, King Power, which is before the Walkers. Their first year in that stadium was in the Championship because they got relegated from the Premiership. So, if you and it's the same sort of scenario where they had financial constraints in 2002, losing a lot of good players, they got relegated. Everton, because financial constraints, not being able to do the transfer business they have to. They're still trying to, get they don't know who's buying the club. Crystal Palace, majority shareholder, is looking to buy that club. So there's turmoil there. There's chaos. Yeah. He's probably going to buy a team that's going to be in the Championship. Don't get me wrong. They'll probably raise their game against Liverpool at Goodison Park and probably beat Man United and give them a bally nose. But I don't think it'll be enough this time. I really don't. Yeah,
it'd be interesting. Of course, Sean Dyche has said there's no money to spend either, so that's not helping matters.
Rest in case.
Right, Kenny, next up, Ipswich Town against Fulham. It's great seeing Ipswich back in the Premier League, but of course, their start has been extremely tough, losing on the opening weekend 2-0 against Liverpool at Portman Road, and then, of course, last weekend, losing 4-1 away at City. What a way to start back in the Premier League. At home to Liverpool, away to City, 2 defeats, scored 1, conceded 6 in those games. Fulham, they lost their opening game against Manchester United 1-0 at Old Trafford, and last weekend they beat Leicester 2-1. What have you made of both these teams? And do you think Ipswich have enough to stay up?
I'm afraid not. I'm really afraid not. I look at their players. Obviously, they've got a very exciting player, Mari Hutchinson. He was with us, then he went to Chelsea. They got Delap, obviously son of Rory, up front. They got another player that could play for the Rough Islands as well. Hungarian backrow Simon Sivic. Good players coming up. And remember, they got Chwan Zami. He's played for Man United as well in that defence. But when I look at Ipswich against Liverpool, I thought they played the first half. I thought they were fantastic. I really thought, but I always thought if Liverpool just weather that storm, and gets into that 60 minutes, 70 minutes, I always thought that their Premiership quality would see them through. The Ipswich will shut off, and that's it. Man City, as much as Ipswich did really well to score, obviously a mistake by Edison. I think they made Man City very angry because Man City responded with a goal in the 12th minute, the 40th minute, and the 16th minute.
It's the worst thing you can do.
Yeah, he made them very angry.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like the audacity of this small team.
How dare you? Yeah.
Yeah. But, when I look at Ipswich, it's going to be a long season for them. I do look for a long season because I look at Ipswich and I see vibes of Luton Town. They are going to try and play football. They are going to try and entertain.
Yeah.
But, the Premiership quality is going to see them through. I do think that when you look at Fulham, that's a very good side. That's a very good side. They signed Emil Smith-Rowe. Iwobi's now looking like a Premiership player. Obviously, he was. I thought he was okay at Arsenal, but okay is not good enough at Arsenal. Everton, I don't think he flatters the sea, but he's banging full. Also, you've got it's up front. They they've got the Brazilian. He's a very good footballer as well, and also obviously they got in midfield they got a really wrong side, and Anthony Robinson, that left back, not only can he defend, he's marauding as well. And I think that's where Ipswich are going to have a lot of problems. Is that Robinson can invert and he maraud. And I do think that if Fulham weather that storm, I think they'll probably have a bit too much quality for them as well. And I expect Smith-Rowe again to feature very highly in the Iwobi as well, who I think are very good players. And let's not forget, bloody Traore. I don't know what it is with him. He claims he doesn't lift weights. I mean, I don't believe him. I'm sure you don't believe him. But that pace, especially when in Ipswich, do try to enforce their game for them. I just think about that pace and the counter attack, which will all open up space for the Smith-Rowes to run into, and also open up space for the Iwobis, and obviously, Brazilian striker up front as well. I do think that, for me, that's why I think Ipswich will lose the game, because I do think Fulham have got that Premiership quality. So I think Fulham will win by the odd goal. They probably will concede, but they're not losing that game. No way.
Well, Fulham are looking for a 7th consecutive win against Ipswich in all competitions. Their most recent top-flight win against Ipswich was a 10-1 home victory back in 1963. It's a decade since Ipswich last had a home win over Fulham in any competition, drawing 1 and losing 4. Ipswich are in danger of losing their first 3 league games of a season for the first time since 2006-2007, when they were in the Championship, and Fulham could win more than one of their opening 3 games of a Premier League season for the first time since 2008. It might surprise you, Kenny. I'm actually going to go for a 1-1 draw. I think that Fulham are one of those sides that you never know what you're going to get.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
But I was going to ask you about that. What have you made of the job that Marco Silva has done there, and what do you think the fans are expecting this season from them? Because you're right, they've signed a couple of decent players. A club like that now should be pushing for those European spots, should they not?
I think so. I think that, the Conference League, getting to the top 10 will satisfy their fans, but, pushing for that Conference League place is definitely good enough to do it. And as you said, since they come back, they're not, because you remember when they came back in the 18-19 season, they came up, beat Villa in the playoff, and they went straight back down. There wasn't just the quality. And then when they came back in 2021, won. Again, not enough Premiership quality. This time, they come back a better side with more experienced players. And they got an experienced goalkeeper in Lena as well. So their fans will expect too much. Expect a lot because now they've got Smith Rowe. He's fit. I think he's going to make a difference there. Iwobi's he's a good player as well. Obviously, they got a proper striker. You know, sad for Jimenez because I don't think he's been the same player since he had that head injury against us.
Yeah,
it's sad. I thought before that head injury, he was had the makers of a very good Premiership striker. But when
absolutely.
I look at expectation, I look at the Premiership experience, I look at the quality as well. Not for they've got Wilson who can come with the bench, and he has like dead ball quality as well. So you can't knock it. So for me, I'm going to go for 2-1 Fulham. I do think they're a good side.
Next up, Leicester City take on Aston Villa at the King Power Stadium. Of course, Leicester drew 1-1 against Spurs, as you mentioned earlier, and they lost 2-1 against Fulham. Aston Villa so far beat West Ham United on the opening weekend 2-1 at the London Stadium, and of course lost to Arsenal 2-0. What have you made of Leicester and Aston Villa so far this season, Kenny? And Aston Villa, of course, in the Champions League this year as well. Well,
firstly, Leicester City, I thought they did very, very well to actually keep me down to 1 goal against you in that first half. Because I say it now, that was probably
we were wasteful.
Yeah, but it was probably one of your best performances. You actually, I actually saw Ange ball, the kind of football that he was playing when he was at Celtic. But however, in the second half, only you know what happened. Why? I think it was tiredness. I think that you were wasteful. I know Son got a lot of criticism, but you've got to admire Leicester. Jamie Vardy, he's like he keeps on going, isn't it? But it's not just Jamie Vardy. In Diddy, before Leicester got relegated, a lot of people were linking Diddy to bigger clubs than Leicester. Let's not forget that. And plus, he's got your boy Harry Winks. Again, I thought he had a good game against yourself, especially in that second half. Harry Winks is a player that I've always admired, even though he's played for you lot, because one thing that Harry Winks does, which a lot of English players never do, keeps possession, never gives the ball away, keeps it ticking over. You look at that Champions League final, I believe Harry Winks started that game. Why did the Poch playing? Because he doesn't give the ball away. That's one thing about Harry Winks. No pace, couldn't score in an onion bag, but one thing he does do, keeps possession ticking over. And I thought that's a very good addition. You got Vaz as well, Belgium international. Vestergaard, slow as anything, but at set pieces, you can't really knock it. Leicester obviously they're a bit hamstrung because they sold Dewsbury Hall, but they got Dakova Reed as well, and also they're going to be getting AU as well. So again, that's more artillery. In terms of Aston Villa played all right against us. Really, they defended really well. They've got a very, very good team, excellent team. Watkins probably is chomping at a bit because of what happened last week.
Yeah.
And then you got that new player, Rogers. Oh God, he's like a tank, isn't he? An absolute tank. He bodied Partey, bodied Declan Rice. He smashed it to pieces. I think Aston Villa will win this comfortably because I do think they got a better players and a better coach.
Well, Leicester have lost just 7 of their 28 Premier League meetings against Aston Villa, winning 11 and drawing 10. However, Aston Villa are unbeaten in their last 3 matches at the King Power Stadium, with their 2 wins in those matches twice as many as they managed in their first 11 Premier League visits, and only 1 of their last 6 top-flight meetings has been won by the home side. I think Aston Villa are going to be too strong for Leicester. I'm going to go for a 2-0 Villa win. And before you give me your score prediction, Kenny, do you think that Aston Villa are good enough to get in the top 4 again this season with the squad that they've got and the manager they've got?
It's going to be hard because you think about the teams that didn't get the top 4.
Yeah.
Who need top 4 football. You need top 4 football on the basis of the fact that you're a big club, and your owner, your chairman, basically. He seems satisfied with the top 4. Then you've got Man United. They have to get top 4, or Ten Hag is going to be looking for a new job. And then there's Chelsea as well. Even though there's chaos, they have to get top 4. So it's going to, if Aston Villa get top 4 again this season, and I haven't even mentioned Newcastle with all the with the riches they have. If Aston Villa do it again, Unai Emery deserves a statue.
Yeah,
that's probably as good as winning a trophy, even though a trophy is more important. But in the context of achievements, Aston Villa are a big club, but not as big as Man United. They're not as big as Chelsea. They're not as big.
Are you surprised by the good job that Emery has done? Because, of course, you know Emery very well, having managed Arsenal.
He was treated abominably by Arsenal. He was treated abominably and quite disrespectfully by some of our fans. Some of our fans are pining after Arsene Wenger. And it's like complete disregard. It seems like a lot of these managers, you go to Spain, and Emery gets respect. You go to Italy, he gets respect. You go to France, he gets respect. But in England, we think we know best. Our tomato ketchup is better than everyone else's tomato ketchup. Our steak is better than everyone else's steak. Our fish and chips is better than, everyone else's fish and chips. And that's how we are. We're very insular, and Arsenal fans are no different. It was very easy to blame one man for all the chaos that ensued after the Invincibles. I mean, he was only here 18 months, but according to some Arsenal fans, he was responsible for all the chaos before that, and all the chaos he was there. So you've got to hand it to him, man. I want that formula. If I can cause that destruction, I'll be a rich man. But that's how it is. He's a top coach.
So, score prediction: Leicester, Aston Villa.
I'm going with Dino. I'm going 2-0.
2-0, same as me.
Yeah.
It's the only one we've agreed on so far. Next up, Nottingham Forest v Wolves. Nottingham Forest beat Southampton 1-0 and drew 1-1 against Bournemouth. And Wolves so far, 2 defeats against Arsenal 2-0 and against Chelsea last weekend 6-2. I don't think anyone would have predicted that. And do you know what? When I had Sean Wallace on, big Chelsea fan, he actually predicted a Wolves win. That's how bad it is.
Well, that's the thing. But if you were to look at that game, all of them, you look at the goals Chelsea scored, naivety, headstrong football, going on attack, playing in the crowd, leaving gaps for Chelsea to just walk through them.
Do you know what, though, Kenny? Last season, I think it is fair to say, from a Spurs fan's perspective, from my perspective, I think that Wolves were probably the team that most impressed me of how they played against Spurs in both games. Yeah. They beat us at home, they beat us away, they played extremely well. They knew exactly what we were going to do, tactically aware. Gary O'Neill, I thought, done a masterclass against Spurs last season. And for his team to lose the opening 2 games, particularly losing 6-2 at home against Chelsea.
But if you look at the goals they conceded, that was all on counter-attack. They were all on home, panicking when the goals were going in, instead of weighing it up. If you concede a goal, the first thing you do is you weigh it up and you keep it tight, and then you go at it. You don't try and say, right, I've got to get that equaliser. Because you look at the goals that Mandueke scored, all of them were on the counter-attack. It was just one pass, boom, there. And look at the marking from the first goal by Jackson. The marking was a joke. Yeah. They're a joke. Wolves have got some good players. They've got players like Sarabia, although he didn't start against Arsenal. They've got, the new Danish striker. They've got the guy from Korea. Was it Hat?
Chang.
Chang, yeah, brilliant footballer, excellent player. Plus they got they got Cunha. They've got the players there. Yeah. Also they got Doherty, who's got really good experience as well. But I think, and obviously they got Ait-Nouri, a very good left back. But I think when you think of Wolves, that game at the Emirates Stadium, we had the edge and quality, but they didn't play badly. They actually took the game to us, especially when we were putting men behind the ball. And there were times where they outrun us, only they didn't have the extra quality, and they had a couple of good chances to actually, get a goal against us. So for that to happen against Chelsea was shocking. But again, if you do play at home and you do have the opposition when there's a lot of pace and they can get them behind you, you are playing with fire now, because a counter attack is probably, apart from set pieces, teams get destroyed in the counter attack. That's where you can see most of your goals in the Premiership, especially where a lot of teams love to press. When they get knackered and they can't press off the ball and press when they go forward, you know what happens? All you've got to do is one pass, boom, they don't even run past you, they walk through you. And that's what happened with Wolves last week against Chelsea. In terms of Nottingham Forest, one thing about Nottingham Forest, they've got a good team. They've got some really good players. You know, they've got Neco Williams, ex-Liverpool player. For me, I rate him really highly. I think he was a bit unlucky at Liverpool because you look at the development of Bradley getting games. Neco Williams probably thought, bloody hell, if I was there at that time, I would have probably got more games for Liverpool. Good player. Aina, the Nigerian international, is a very good player. They've got players like Hudson-Odoi. I rate him. Wood, good footballer. Of course, they got a Wumi on the bench who was their main man before he got injured. So that's quality. Elanga's got a bit of pace. Although I'm hearing that Newcastle are trying to come in for him, but there's pace around there, and there is genuine quality, and there's less chaos. And they're playing at home. But thing with Nottingham Forest, there were some games last season when I looked at them and I thought, right, it could either be Nottingham Forest win this 2-0 or Wolves win this 3-2 because of the chaos. So I'm going to go for a Wolves 3-2 win.
A Wolves 3-2 win. I'm actually going to go.
Despite the criticism I had of Wolves last week, and in fact, they still have the players who can break Forest down. So I look at Forest as well, and there is chaos there. And I don't think Wolves can be that bad. In fact, another thing as well, they'll be chomping a bit as well. So I have to go for a Wolves win.
Well, this is going to be interesting because I'm going to go for a 2-1 Nottingham Forest win.
Fair enough.
I think Nuno's going to do the business. Morgan Gibbs-White, of course, got the international call up as well, so he's going to be
as well. He's a very good player, but again, despite the fact they got a very good player, Morgan, right, and he's going to be playing against his boyhood club, I just fancy Wolves for this. I really do. Yeah.
Well, Nottingham Forest have won just one of their last 11 league games against Wolves, beating them 2-0 at Molineux in January 2018. And Wolves are unbeaten in their last 6 away league games against Forest since a 3-1 loss in March 2013. Next up, Kenny, is West Ham United take on champions Manchester City. Of course, City have got off to a flyer already, 2 wins out of 2. Beating Chelsea 2-0 and beating Ipswich 4-1. And West Ham beat Crystal Palace 2-0 and they lost at home against Aston Villa on the opening weekend 2-1. I haven't asked you this yet, although we've spoken about your club Arsenal. Who's going to win the Premier League this year, in your opinion?
I'm going to answer this honestly. Arsenal have to win it. We have to win a trophy.
You said that to me last year.
Yeah, but and I mean it. You can't go on. You think about it, and I know this may sound entitled, but since the Invincibles, we only won 5 trophies.
No, but of course, as an Arsenal fan, you're going to say, "Oh, I hope we win it," right? You're going to say, "Hope we win it." But from being realistic, who do you think will win?
Realistically, Man City will win it. The reason why I say Man City, because when we're going to go into their squad, we're going to go into the reason why they won it the last 2 years. It's Erling Haaland. Erling Haaland made a difference. Think about it. Think about it. If you had the goals this season, he's played 65 games. No, sorry, he's played 68 games, and he's got 67 goals. 68 games.
Unbelievable.
That's Gerd Muller. That's good Muller, isn't it? That's Gerd Muller. That's Gerd Muller stats. Those stats are for Gerd Muller. I repeat, 68 Premiership games, 67 goals. That's one that he's made a difference in both years. But also they got Godwin back. You'd have thought, obviously when they lost Brogna and they relied a bit on Foden, there was always something missing, wasn't there? But,
brilliant signing to sign him back. Yeah, absolute superb piece of business.
I think that cements them in midfield. Obviously, you've got Kovacic, who's been a very good buy from Chelsea. Rodri, say no more. He basically runs the show. He can hold, but he can also get past the defence. He's got a bit of a goal threat. He's a midfield dynamo. And then you look at the goalkeeper Edison. Obviously, I mentioned Haaland. They've got Savio, who basically has replaced Mahrez, and Doku always stretches the game. There's a reason why Doku plays ahead of Grealish, is that Grealish has the techers, but Grealish can't stretch the game. And when you play, and when Doku and Savio stretch the game, De Bruyne makes the runs into spaces where he doesn't get marked. And then you've got Godwin, get Phil Foden as well. They create space, they create chaos. And that's why, I look at Arsenal, no striker. We've got a very, very good compact side. But when you look at the Erling Haaland and the players I've just mentioned, that will be the E-class. And plus their mentality's there as well. They've won it before. And Man City are not just going to be satisfied with winning the league. They're going to want to win the Champions League. In fact, they're going to want to do the quadruple. Mentality, for me, will see them through.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
In terms of like this season, that is where it's going to be a difficult game for West Ham. West Ham, very good side. Areola, I think, is a good goalkeeper. In terms of they've now got Wan-Bissaka, who I think is a very unlucky not to play for England. And the reason why I say it, hear me out. If you were to ask me, who's the person who's got the most pace to right back? Walker. But who would you trust on 1-on-1 to mark a quick player out of the game? Wan-Bissaka or Walker? You say Wan-Bissaka. Who's the sort of person that in the penalty area times his tackles better? Wan-Bissaka, Benjamin White, Walker, or Rico Lewis? You say Wan-Bissaka. So there's the finding there. So that there is a find. Plus they still got they got Pochetta. I don't know for how long. Still a good player. You've got Jared Bowen. I rate him very highly. They now got the striker Falkirk for Dortmund. However, that's not going to be enough against Man City. Despite the fact they've got a good
Kenny, I've noticed whatever teams we're talking about, you always seem to get your Arsenal connections in there as well.
Well. You could say that Arsenal's a feeder club. You could say it, can't you? We're a feeder club.
What have you made of the appointment of Lopetegui at West Ham? And also they've got lots of new signings. You mentioned Wan-Bissaka, Jean-Claire Todibo. They've got Somerville come in. Fulric has come in as well. What have you made of their business? Because I've seen some fan channels already on YouTube are stating that West Ham should be pushing for the top four. Is that a bit too optimistic?
Well, yeah, not because West Ham are a poor side, it's because of the competition. Remember this, you guys who are better than them. Then you've got Aston Villa, I think it's the superior side of them. Then you've got Newcastle with the players as well. Plus you've got Man United. So it's a big, but you know what? It's all about the competition. Why not aim high? You've got a 60,000 stadium. Basically our council taxes pay for your stadium. I mean, if you own a property in London or you're a Londoner, our council taxes pay for your stadium. So you're not as if you're paid for your stadium. You don't have to pay £2 million in rent. So you've got to buy there. So you should have money to buy players. But saying that, Man City are just too strong. Erling Haaland is going to be the equaliser. West Ham will give him a game. Kudos is a fantastic player. I've got to mention him. But it's Man City. I can't see anything by a Man City win. It won't be comfortable. They'll suffer, but they have the extra quality.
Well, Manchester City's Phil Foden is again expected to miss out due to illness. And the match facts and stats head-to-head, West Ham are without a win in their last 17 Premier League meetings against Manchester City, drawing 3 and losing 14, dating back to a 2-1 victory at the Etihad Stadium back in September 2015, so nearly 10 years. The Hammers could equal their longest top-flight winless streak against a single opponent that was 18, set against Liverpool between 1983 and 1994. And Manchester City's only defeat in their last 14 away league games at West Ham United, winning 8 and drawing 5, came at Upton Park in October 2014. Kenny, this has got a Man City win written all over it. I'm going to go 2-0.
Yeah, I'm going to go for Man City 3-1. But the thing about teams like your West Hams, I'll put you in that category as well, if you don't mind me doing that. And Crystal Palace for that category is not because we can fall in that category as well. There's certain teams that on their day they can beat anyone.
Yeah,
West Ham, one of those teams. On their day,
they are.
Anyone. Crystal Palace are one of those teams. On there they can beat anyone. And obviously, there's times when you could say Tottenham, before the Poch went there, on the day they can beat anyone because of the fact that
I wouldn't put Spurs in the same category as West Ham. I get what you mean, though.
Because, what I mean, you're not putting them in the same category, but if you put them in the category, no. You obviously, you and West Ham have a very strange rivalry. I mean, I know why you guys have a rivalry, because if you go areas of London like Walthamstow, Chingford, and North Essex, both Spurs and West Ham fans live in the same area, so that's why there's a rivalry. It's a rivalry.
Kenny, there's no doubt about it. West Ham raise their game when Spurs are in town, or whether they come to our stadium. It is their, we call it their cup final. It is definitely their cup final.
Yeah, but they raised their game. But they raised their game against us. Let's not forget. Before we beat them 6-0, they murdered us in the cup, and they murdered us at the Emirates. So they do it against us as well. But obviously, your one is, I think it's kind of an East End rivalry for some reason. Spurs is a North London club, yet there's a few East Enders and a few people living.
We are the only North London club.
But I'm not, all right. We'll talk about that one later. But don't you find it extraordinary that if you go to parts of Essex and you go to like Walthamstow, Chingford, it's Tottenham, even though it's an East London postcode, and Essex is Tottenham, and there's just as many Tottenham fans as West Ham fans. I find it quite extraordinary. Tottenham
are everywhere.
I know, but if you go to Essex, there's a lot of Spurs fans in Essex. Yeah. I don't understand it. Is it because because normally Spurs fans leave North London and go to Hertfordshire, but you've done it the wrong way. You've gone to Essex. Anyway, that's another thing. But I do think that Man City win this game 3-1.
3-1. Right, next up, the Sunday fixtures. Chelsea against Crystal Palace. What have you made of the job that Maresca has done there so far? I know we're only a couple of games in. He's had a couple of games in the Europa Conference League as well. They lost their opening game 2-0 at home against Manchester City, beat Wolves 6-2. Crystal Palace so far have lost 2 games under Glazner, which is surprising, really, Kenny, because they finished last season really well under him, and I expected big things from Palace this season. Although they did sell Elise, but they've kept Eze. They lost against Brentford and West Ham. Firstly, let's talk about Chelsea. What have you made of what Maresca has come out and said about the 40-odd players? He wants to whittle it down to 20-odd players. He doesn't want to be coaching 40-odd players on the training pitch, which I completely agree with. And I think that someone does need to go in there and sort the club out. Is he the right man to do that?
There's chaos, isn't there? Depends on expectations. It depends on what is being agreed between him and Clearlake. Now, they might tell him one thing, and he might believe another thing. One thing, he's got a job in his hands, because I don't care what anyone says, despite the fact. Essex Tottenham, Simon. All right, I'm corrected.
Kenny's upsetting the Essex fan base here.
So I'm right then. In terms of the job, he's at Chelsea's got a job in his hands, because not only has he had to get rid of the high wage earners and get the academy players off the books in order to bring in big money. Yeah, in order so he can stay within in PSR. He's also got to get a squad. Personally, I'm a bit surprised at his choice of goalkeeper. Sanchez. I always thought that the Petrovic guy was probably better than him, but he's made a decision.
I agree.
And I think Arisa Balaga, I mean, he's better than Sanchez. I'm sorry, but he is. So that's a strange one. Reece James, obviously, he's been suspended. Need to get him fit. Because he stays fit.
He did speak in a press conference, though, Kenny, recently, and said it's about players and their attitude, and it's about players with their attitude in training every single day. I think some of those players just expected to be in the starting 11 every week, and they're not giving their all. Yeah,
but you know what? We've been hearing that for years, haven't we? We pick players and what they do in training. It's just a standard thing. I think the thing is that he's been told to get rid of the big wage earners. Get rid of Sterling. He's on £300,000 a week. Let's get rid of him. Let's get rid of Chilwell. He's injury prone. He's on 200 something grand a week. We've got Cucurella, who we bought from Brighton, who doesn't earn as much as Chilwell. So he's won the Euros. get rid of him, and then you look at Casado and Fernandez. Obviously, they come for big money, but they're not on big wages. So he wants to build a team around them, and then you've got Mudryk, because they spent £80 million on him. They've got to get it right with that one. They have to get it right. At the moment, when you look at Chelsea and you think, who's the quality player there? It's only Cole Palmer, and he's only had one season in English football. Everyone talks
Incredible
about
player.
Like he's the greatest thing since sliced bread, but he's only had one full season in English football. So there's a massive reliance on him.
Yeah.
And you look at Nick, they haven't got that striker. Only they know why I know why they didn't get Osterman, because obviously he's not selling for 60, 70 grand a week. Ivan Toney would have, but Ivan Toney, as we discussed earlier in the show, if someone's offering you 300 grand a week and you stay there for 2 years, you're laughing. So that's the situation. So they're going to have to rely heavily on Nicholas Jackson again. So when I look at Chelsea, they are going to be difficult to beat. They are going to give their all. But when it comes to that quality against the better sides in the top six, home and away, I think they'll struggle. For me, saying that, Crystal Palace, I'm not surprised, because Elise is a very, very good player, and he's a hard player to replace. I don't care what you do. I know they're looking to get back. I know they were looking to get bodies in. Eddie Nketiah still hasn't gone there. We've been told that Eddie Nketiah has agreed personal terms. He's having a medical. That was on Wednesday. Well, the time now is 10 past 7 on Friday. 4 hours before deadline day. We still don't know what's happened with Eddie Nketiah. They got Mateta, who's had a very good end of the season, for 16 goals. Also featured for France in the Olympic Games. So normally that's the kind of game where I do think that Crystal Palace are better than the results they had before. Chelsea, I thought the 6-2 Wolves flattered them, because Wolves can't be that bad. I'm going to go for a draw.
A draw? What are you going to go with?
I'm going for 1-1.
1-1?
Yeah.
I'm going to go 3-1 Chelsea.
I can understand when you do it, because you're going on the 6-2. But when I look at Crystal Palace, and not that, they still, one of the most important decisions that's gone their way is that they kept Gay. They kept their best player.
Yeah, Oliver Glasner has confirmed that Mark Gay will remain at the club following interest from Newcastle United.
Yeah.
What I also wanted to ask you, Kenny, before I give you the match facts here, is Neto. Chelsea signing Neto. What do you make of it?
Neto? I thought he was coming to us. You mean the goalkeeper?
Pedro Neto.
Neto. I thought there's two Netos. Obviously, there's a Neto, the goalie that we're going to get.
You're just Arsenal all the time in your head. Whatever game we're talking about, you're Arsenal minded.
Yeah, I know what you mean. But yeah, Neto from Wolves. I think that's a fantastic signing. Because the reason why I see it was signing, I'm sorry I'm bringing Arsenal into it. We coveted that player to push Saka for his price, because I don't know about you, but I don't believe in backup players. I believe that if you're at a big club and you should consider yourself a big club, any of your players should be pushed for their place. Song should be pushed for his place. Kulusevski should be pushed for his place. The defender should be pushed for his place. Don't want it backups. Backups offer you nothing at all. So Neto is a player that I was gutted. But one thing with Neto, injuries. Especially in these, is he going to overcome his injuries? If he overcomes his injuries, then yes. But when I look at Neto, I think Chelsea are not going to see a fully fit Neto until probably October. So you are going to eventually see the best of him, but he's going to take a run of games. Saying that, I still think that there's just something about Chelsea where I think it's not the same. When I look at Chelsea, I look at Cech, Terry, Drogba, Lampard, Carvalho.
Completely different.
Players like Essien, Drogba. Come on, there's none of those players there. There are no leaders at that club.
Yeah.
No leaders. Sorry, no leaders. You're not winning trophies. You're not scaring anybody.
Yeah. We'll talk about Man United in a minute, and I'll ask you about leaders then. Now, head-to-head, the reason why I've gone for a Chelsea win, Chelsea have won 24 of the 30 Premier League meetings, 24 out of 30. Chelsea have won their last 13 Premier League games against Crystal Palace. They could tie the Football League record of 14 straight victories against the same opponent currently held by Manchester City against Bournemouth. Crystal Palace's 4 wins in the Premier League fixture have all come under a different manager. And there has not been a draw in any of the last 27 encounters in all competitions. And you've gone for a 1-1 draw.
Reason why I got, because Crystal Palace on those results, and you look at the performance in those games against West Ham, Crystal Palace didn't play badly against West Ham. Crystal Palace were very unlucky against Brentford in a live game, 2 weeks ago. There's quality there. Obviously, yeah, I know Eze was, I know that Eze, I know that they're looking to get back Wilfried Zaha. I know that, but there's still good players there. Still good players there. Eze's still good player. Talking to Eze, I was under the impression that he'd be joining you guys. What happened there?
I think a lot of Spurs fans would love to see Eze come through the door at Spurs.
I was under the impression that he was guest of honour at North London Derby.
His family were. His family were in a box at Spurs for a couple of games last season. I think a lot of people got excited about that. But I think
I need to be horsewhipped. I told all the Arsenal fans, don't bother even considering Eze, because Eze is going to Tottenham. I genuinely was convinced he'd be going to Spurs.
I've been a big fan of Eze, actually, Kenny, since his days at QPR. Spurs were linked with then, but we didn't want to pay the money at that point. And it appears that we don't want to pay that money now.
That's a shock. You not wanting to pay the money. Oh, bloody hell. Levy, God, that man.
We'll come on to Spurs now. And if we wanted to talk a bit about transfers, because in terms of transfers, Ange Postecoglou has just finished his press conference today, and he has stated that he believes that we are in a stronger position after this transfer window. A lot of Spurs fans, most Spurs fans online, and most Spurs fans I know and that come on this channel as well, various guests, would disagree with that, because we feel like a couple of injuries to key players again could derail our season exactly like it did last year. And you talk about backups. When you're talking about players that are actually going to walk straight into the starting 11, Dominic Solanke certainly does that, because Richarlison, it appears, is always injured. He's now out for the Newcastle game that we'll talk about now. So the team news for Spurs, Richarlison and Solanke are out. Bentancur is back. Tonoli is back for Newcastle. He spent 10 months out suspended. He played against Nottingham Forest midweek in the Carabao Cup, so he's expected to walk into the starting 11 on Sunday. Botman, Lascelles, Willock and Callum Wilson are out for Newcastle. Now, the thing is, Kenny, with this fixture, Spurs fans worry about this fixture because the last couple of trips up to St James's Park, 6-1 victory for Newcastle, 4-0 victory for Newcastle. So they've scored 10 against us in the last 2 visits. They've won 3 out of the last 4 Premier League games against Spurs. And this match has seen 186 goals. Only Liverpool v Tottenham, 191 goals, and Arsenal v Liverpool, 190 goals, have seen more. This game certainly produces goals. And Newcastle v Tottenham is the most played fixture in the Premier League to never finish 0-0 in 58 matches. No 0-0s. So this one, you're guaranteed goals.
That's not a surprise. Obviously, obviously over the years, there has been times when you have gone up there and they've actually caned you, But that was when you when you had what I regard as really poor team. The team, the Spurs team in the 90s was poor. It wasn't even a cup side. It was just basically Alan Sugar, basically just happy to keep you in the Premiership. And then obviously you got under ENIC. Under Levy, you had to build yourself up first with Martin Yole and then Harry Redknapp, where things improved. But there's always been, like, Spurs and Newcastle, there's always been really good games where sometimes you'll win at St James's Park, or they give you a hiding, or they'll come to the White Hart Lane and turn you over. It's one of those games where they got a very interesting record against you, where when I look at it, recently there's been some strange results, very strange results in that game. My biggest worry for Tottenham, especially with your record at Newcastle, is your manager. And what I worry about, if I was a Spurs fan, even though I'm a Gooner, but I'm just talking neutral, we're just 2 guys talking about the football. Set pieces are an issue for Tottenham. I don't care what anyone says. Your goalkeeper's a worry, and and you like I said, you don't follow your marker. You look at the goals we scored against you last year at the end, at your ground, set pieces. Another thing as well is on the counter attack where Ange ball, where he demands that you play a high energy, high pressing, inverted winger style kind of way, and it's passionate. But in the Premiership, after 80 minutes, if you're not winning the game, and there's like 10 minutes to go, and it's tight, and your players are, that's when teams can eat you up. Sometimes I think there isn't a plan B range. Another situation as well. He's got to make a decision with your front three. Either it's Kulusevski on the right or Brennan on the right, and then Song on the left, and then whoever is up front. Because the problem you've got is that Brennan Johnson, he's trying to play him on the right, but modern football, right, orthodox wingers don't exist no more. It's all inverted. So by trying to play Brennan Johnson right, that leaves your team lopsided. But the thing with Kulusevski, a lot of Spurs fans I speak to say that he's too predictable, but it gives you balance. So if Solanke's injured, it's a case of Brennan Johnson being on the bench and deputised for Song, because you can't leave Song out. But after the Leicester game, all I was hearing was criticism of Song. Where even some fans are saying that, well, this should be his last season or should be dropped. Some fans are saying he should be dropped. So he's got that. I think if he doesn't sort that front three out and give it a bit of balance, that's where I do think it's going to struggle. Another thing as well, James Maddison needs to hit the ground running. He come back from injury, but he didn't go with England.
Yeah,
he didn't go with England, so he should have had a good pre-season. In big games like Newcastle, you need more from that guy. You don't need the odd pass and he mars it or free kick. He's got to grips the game up. Because Newcastle side, they've got Joe Linton back. They've got Chonyoli back. Got Willock who can come from the bench. They've got Harvey Barnes, who's good in the camp. They've got Jordan. They've got Isak. They've got Sharon in defence. They've got Pope. They're a good team. And if you switch off against them, this is where they can hurt you. But that's where Ange ball, he has to be able to be flexible with his system. He's not flexible. It's his way or the highway. All I'm trying to say, away at Newcastle, can you play Ange ball for 90 minutes and come away with something? I'm not sure you can.
This is what I've been saying in the previous weeks, Kenny, that no disrespect to Leicester or Everton, the two teams that we've faced so far. And it was really strange because the podcast that I recorded after the Everton game, where of course we beat them 4-0, it didn't feel like we'd just beaten a Premier League team 4-0. I think a lot of fans expected it. The crowd, even in the stadium, there was just that expectation that Spurs were going to win that game. The fact that Everton had so many players out injured, and the fact that they'd lost 3-0 at home against Brighton the week before. So it was a weird atmosphere. But I think that these two games, the next two games, Newcastle away, Arsenal at home, and you've mentioned set pieces so early on in this conversation about Spurs Newcastle, is that we really suffered against Newcastle and Arsenal last season with set pieces.
But you suffered on the counter-attack as well. You suffered on the counter-attack where Newcastle got in behind you and just took the game away from you. So that's the situation. Basuma has to have a good season. He needs to give you more. Sarr gives you more. And Doggy, thank God you got in fit. But you've got to give you more. And just his tactics has to protect these guys. There has to be a plan B. Romero right now, it's only a reputation. The better defender is Van der Ven. He's the better player. He probably could help you tomorrow because what Van der Ven does, not only can he do, he's got the pace, he brings the ball out and brings your midfield and gets the runners. So that will help. However, he's got to measure that when he does that against Newcastle, because again, you're talking about Isak getting in behind you. You've got the pace of Anthony Gordon. Gordon the side. Obviously, you've got Jumeirez. He's very good on the ball as well. You've got to watch him. Joe Linton's another one who can go from box to box. You've got to mark those runs, because if he gets runs and get in that box and creates chaos, that's where they can take the game from you. So set pieces are paramount, but also watch the runs of Joe Linton. you've got to watch him, the runs of Joe Linton, because he's going to create a bit of space and stretch the game for for Gordon to either cut in, have a shot, or create something for Isak. This is where you've got to play your best football. If Spurs want to be taken seriously as a team that can challenge for big trophies and either cause chaos in order to have a go at the top four, or maybe put in a challenge, it's games like this that you've got to avoid defeat. You've got to go. You can't be making those mistakes, and you just got to be flexible, because what's going to happen? You lot will turn on him if you keep on seeing those kind of performances. No improvement in terms of like the set pieces. Players looking exhausted after 80 minutes, where there's still a lot of the game to go, and teams just picking you off. And that Brennan Johnson situation. He bought Brennan Johnson. Does he want to play him? Does he want to play him? Well, he does want to play him. Make a decision. Make a decision. You've got to do. Because the other day, when Solanke comes back, he's playing up front.
Yeah.
You can't play Brennan Johnson as a right forward when we're in the age of inverted wingers. It's not going to work.
Everyone in the area in that final third, Kenny, needs to improve, in my opinion. And Andrew spoke about it.
100%. Yeah. That's why I've got Newcastle winning this, because I don't think you're going to improve for set pieces. I still think there's going to be a conundrum where I do think that the way you play in terms of the pressing, high energy game, you have to be leading the game when it's neck and neck. I don't see any evidence of game management. I don't.
Do you think Ange Postecoglou will be successful at Spurs, i.e. win a trophy in his time at Tottenham?
If he takes the cup seriously, yeah. If he takes Europe seriously, yeah. Because he's got better tools. But in terms of the league, he has to be flexible. He can't, you can't say, "Oh, it worked for me at Celtic and it worked for me in Yokohama." Premiership's different. Premiership's different. You know that. Yeah. I know that. I don't think he knows that. Just forget the Arsenal. Forget this red shirt. Oh, you know it's an Adidas shirt. Forget that. Just these two men, two buddies talking football.
Yeah. What are you going for, Kenny?
I'm going for a Newcastle 2-1 win, because I do think that you're going to make. I still think that set pieces is going to be Achilles' heel.
I think, and I hope that Spurs will turn up. I think either Kulusevski now will go through the centre, or Heung-min Son will go through the centre. That's going to be an interesting one, how he mixes that up in the final third with Dominic Solanke and Richarlison being out injured again. I'm hoping that we turn up. I'm going to go for a 3-2 Spurs win.
Hey, with the quality you have and the way the attacking football, both that is a realistic result, because I can't say that you're off your head, because there is quality players there. There's creativity in both sides, and there's defensive mistakes in both sides. I just think, if something's not working, try and fix it. You should spend a lot of time during the preseason fixing that. You know what I mean? You work on it. Who's the number two who's the number two at Spurs? The Aussie international. What's his name? He's played for
Mile Jedinak.
Yeah, what's he doing? What's Jedinak doing? Come on, he's playing in the Premiership. He should know. Play for Aston Villa in the Championship and play for Crystal Palace captain. He should know about set pieces.
Yeah, it's funny actually, because Nick Montgomery has now come in as a new Spurs coach, and apparently he is now in charge from the start of this season of set pieces, both attacking and defensively. So there has been that change.
He needs to work on the defensive ones more than the attacking one, because the attacking ones is not a problem. You're very good at on very tall. You've got players like Van der Ven's height. You've got Romero who attacks the ball, not a problem. Yeah. Delivery's good. Defensively, issues.
Yeah. Kenny, let me ask you before we move on to Man United v Liverpool. If I was to ask you for a prediction of where Spurs will finish at the end of the season, what would you go for?
That's a good one, No. The reason why is that it's hard. It's hard. The reason why it's hard is because the top four or top five areas, it's going to be too close to call. There's quality teams there. Man United are quality.
Are they?
Come on. You look at Man United since you look at Man United they'll have one season where they'll come in the top 4 or top 3. The next season they're terrible, and then they get back.
I'm not convinced with Ten Hag, but we'll talk about that in a second.
But if you think about the players they got, there's good players there. I think the top 4 is an open race. I think the Spurs sort out defence, make a decision on who's playing the front 3, and you go on a run of games. Why not? Why not? Why not top 4? But right now, I've got you down to 6th.
Okay. Well, let's see what happens. It'll be an interesting season. Last game, Manchester United take on Liverpool. I completely agree that they've got a lot of quality players there, but I believe that the recruitment in recent seasons, definitely under Ten Hag, has been really poor. A lot of the fans moan about them not spending enough money. I think they've spent hundreds of millions of pounds, but the recruitment has been poor.
You know what's been poor? You know what's been poor for Ten Hag? You know why? What he's done, he's got players from the Eredivisie who did well from Ajax, and he hasn't studied what the Premiership's about. He's got so because they were good players in Eredivisie, they have to make they haven't been making the transition fitness-wise and physically for the Premiership. So when you see Anthony doing really well in the Eredivisie, he hasn't developed physically. He hasn't acclimatized the pace of the game. It's like night and day. And then you've got, I think Martinez, I don't know problem with me. I think he's going to be a good player for him, but it took him a long time for him to adjust. So that's the caliber of player he's bringing from Ajax. Sometimes the Premier League is the biggest equaliser out there ever. If you can ball in the Premier League and ball it all over the other leagues, you can consider yourself one of the best players in the world. The Premier League is the hardest league in the world.
Well, with that said, Kenny, when you saw some of the clips of, say, Marcus Rashford not pressing, not closing down, just jogging around the centre spot, you don't want to be seeing that in any Premier League team, let alone Manchester United. When you hear ex-captains and ex-leaders, people like Roy Keane saying, we go to war. When he got on that pitch, it was like nothing else mattered. You have to win those games.
Man United's a different club. Man United haven't got Sir Alex Ferguson, who basically all the Man United players were scared of Ferguson, even Keane. Keane can tell you a tale, and it probably go in, maybe the greatest bestsellers, but it'll be a lie. They were all scared of Ferguson, all of them. They still call him boss, apart from Keano.
Yeah.
So they raised their game for Ferguson. They ran their hearts out for Ferguson. Plus, there were leaders like. Did you see that program with Roy Keane and Gary Neville? Everyone was on there. He was a leader. Then you've got Ferdinand as a leader. Then you go all the way back to Bruce, Robson, leaders. Keane, leader. Giggsy, leader.
Yeah.
Where's the leaders at Man United? Harry Maguire should be a leader. Not forget his pay. Forget his transfer fee. It's experience. The guy's a mouse.
Yeah,
he's a mouse. And then you've got Bruno Fernandes. He tries to be a leader, but we ridicule him because he's not English. But he's the only one who's trying to direct the traffic. He's the only one trying to lead. Rashford, 8 years since his debut, and he still looks like the 18-year-old. That's why he didn't go in England. He should be embarrassed that players that have not got the same footballing ability or quality as him were on that plane in Germany, and he was at home. He should be embarrassed, but he isn't. What's wrong with him? It's never him. It's I'm going through a hard time. I'm not happy at the club. Come on, you're at Man United. Who are you? Man United have got players like who won trophies in the 60s, in the 50s, and under Sir Alex. You won nothing. You won a few cups here and there, the Europa Cup. Put your head together. You play for Man United. This is going to be because I tell you, life after Man United for Marcus Rashford is going to be very, very miserable and very humbling if he doesn't pull his socks up. Seriously.
Yeah. Mason Mount, Højlund, Lindelof, Shaw, they are all out for Man United. Chiesa unlikely to feature as he has only just trained for the first time today on Friday for Liverpool. What do you make of that signing, Chiesa? Good price.
It's very good price, and another thing as well, it's just another example of why Liverpool will always be part of that conversation when it comes to, doing well in the Champions League, winning cups, and causing chaos when it comes to challenge for the title. They may be slightly behind Arsenal and Man City, or whatever direction you put it, Man City or Arsenal, but they'll be part of that conversation because they've got players who can score goals. Yotta the Slotter scores goals. We don't even have to talk about Salah. Nunez, if he gets his act together, could score goals as well. And this guy creates chaos. He's got a lot of pace, but he's had some injuries. And there's talk in Italy where tactically he can be a bit of a scatterbrain a bit, but if he gets it right, they've got a good player in their hands. So in terms of Liverpool quality, Slot plays a different way than Klopp. Klopp played heavy metal football and it told their players looked knackered after in April. Whilst this guy is more about possession, he's keeping everything fresh. If the game's won, he takes you off. He's very much a European manager. I will ask Klopp, he's a mate, which don't get me wrong, you want to play every minute in every game, but I think this guy is looking to, go the long way. He's going for playing a long game. He wants to challenge for the league. He wants to do well in Europe. He wants to win something this season. There's no transition for this guy. He wants it today, which means, he's seen what went wrong with Klopp and he's trying to fix it. But he hasn't. They're still going to play attacking football, but with a brain. Man United.
A good appointment for you, Arnie Slot, Kenny?
100%. You know what? One, it's a good point because they made it early.
Yeah.
Messing around, got there, identified what he'd done, saw what he did at Feyenoord, thinks he can make that adjustment. And one thing he hasn't done, which Ten Hag done, he hasn't raided Feyenoord. He hasn't raided them for players like Ten Hag, bringing your players you knew from the Eredivisie, not realising that the pace and athleticism is night and day. So I think he'll do well. But in terms of that, Man United are going to raise their game. They enjoy stopping Liverpool from winning the FA Cup. They enjoyed stopping Liverpool from winning the league. Plus, there's quality. They've got they've got good individual players. Xerxes scored against Fulham. Dalot is improved. Then you've got Garnacho, Fernandes. I still think Fernandes is still a very good player, and because it's Liverpool, they're going to raise the game. I'm going to be boring and go for a 1-1.
1-1.
Yeah, going 1-1 because Man United are going to refuse to lose against Liverpool. Liverpool are going to want to make a dent, but I think Liverpool would be happy with a point. I really do. They ready for the point because I do think they're going to be under the cosh. But
I think with Man United though, Kenny, you never know what you're going to get under Eric Ten Hag.
You never know. But if you look at the game against Brighton, come on, that win, the 2-1 Brighton Man United game is a myth. Come on, Man United dominated that game. Midfield, they absolutely bodied Brighton. Brighton are not the same team that they were under Zerbi and Potter, and Man United only have themselves to blame. I mean, whose knee gets in the way of a worldie goal? Who does it? How can't you keep your knee behind the line? Bloody knobbly knees cost them the game.
Yeah. Well, what about this for a stat? Manchester United have conceded an injury time winner in 6 of their 78 Premier League games under Eric Ten Hag. Yeah. In their previous 1,152 matches, they did so just twice.
How many injury time winners have they scored? It'd be interesting to see. Even since the Premiership started,
we need that. Under Alex Ferguson.
Sir Alex Ferguson, and even there were times last season. I think you'll find that we're probably talking 3 figures. The amount of injury times goals they've scored because there's quite a few. I'm not saying the referees on their side because this is a family show, but when it comes to injury time winners, Man United are champions of that.
Well, I'm going to go for a 1-0 Liverpool win. And I'm just going to leave you with this stat. Manchester United have won just 1 of their last 12 Premier League games against Liverpool. So I'm going to go for a 1-0 Liverpool win, and I think Arne Slot will get off to a flying start, 3 wins out of his first 3 Premier League games, because of course
I get the feeling that you're going to quite enjoy this if Ten Hag's going for a bit of difficulty and it's a Man United. Has Man United left some scars on you? It's like they left a lot of clubs, because I look at Man United, and when it comes to hating teams, it's always been you.
No, it's not. It's not about hating teams, Kenny. I just think that Man United have made a lot of poor choices, particularly under Eric Ten Hag. I'm really surprised that they gave him a new contract. I know he won the FA Cup, but
the FA Cup.
I feel like he should have left.
He could have left, but the thing with that, clearly, they've gone to other managers, and no other manager was interested.
Yeah.
So they've gone with Ten Hag, and Ten Hag's actually saved them a bit of time, because beating that Man City side in the FA Cup final, you got. If you were to take away the rubbish that you saw last season in terms of like them getting back in the midfield, and you look at the record of Ten Hag, 2 seasons, 2 trophies, and then first season he finished 3rd, got in the top 4. Now, for Man United, that's terrible. But remember, I always look at Man United. I know the Man United before Sir Alex.
But he spent all this. He spent all this money again. He spent all this money during his time there. And at the start of the season, he says, "My team isn't ready."
Yeah, but let me tell you something now. In the 80s and the 70s, before Sir Alex went there, Man United spent money as well, big money than anyone else, even bigger than Liverpool. And the Man United you're seeing now, since Sir Alex Ferguson left, is the Man United I knew as a kid.
Yeah.
When I had managers like Dave Sexton, Ron Atkinson.
Yeah.
And obviously early Fergie. That's the Man. That's the Man United I know. The Man United that you grew up with, Sir Alex Ferguson. That's the Man United. Sir Matt Busby. Sir Matt Busby. That Man United. If you think about Man United's whole history, they've only had 2 great eras: Sir Alex and Sir Matt Busby. In between, it had been great.
Yeah. My friend Glenn here doesn't exactly help my cause. Chris, the question is, who had a better season last year, Spurs or Man United? Man United, of course, won the FA Cup, and Spurs finished 5th.
Yeah, but it has. I think, come on, you're a Spurs fan. Come on, you're brought up. Your dad brought you up on Danish Blanchfire. What did Danish Blanchfire say? The game is about glory. Your boy, Danny Blanchfire, your boy says the game is about glory. So when he says the game is about glory, the guys in the chat is basically quoting Danny Blanchfire. He says,
we want to see the glory. Yeah.
So again, you think about it, you had 16 years for a club of your size. Remember what I said when we first did the podcast last year? Don't be another Everton.
Yeah.
Don't be another Everton.
Well, we're going to have you back in a couple of weeks, Kenny, because of course there's these games this weekend. There's the international break. And then, of course, we will be facing Arsenal at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium for our 4th game of the season. Very last question for you. I know you've given us a few of these already. If I had to ask you now to predict the top 4 in order, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and the 3 teams to go down, I know we're only 2 games in, and a lot can happen from now until the end of the season. But give me an early prediction.
Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool, Man United. Relegated, bottom of the table, Ipswich Town. 2nd from bottom, Southampton. 3rd from bottom, Leicester City. Leicester City is a sad one, because they haven't got any money to spend, and they're going to get points deducted. I think that contributes to them being relegated. I really think that would contribute to their relegation. Not because I don't think lack of quality would be an issue, but come on, they haven't even spent any money. So that'd be our team. And you know what? Everton are going to get away with it. They're getting away with murder. Getting points deducted.
Yeah.
Not spending money. Basically not even changing the team. But because there's 3 teams that are worse than them, they managed to stay up. Trust me, I know this is a North London thing. They are frauds. They are crooks. They're crooks. They're like one of the 40 thieves. They're like one of the 40 thieves. How do they keep getting away with it? You know how they keep getting away with it, Chris? Because the quality, there's a quality difference between the Premiership and the Championship. And teams that come up from the Championship will automatically struggle to make that gap. You look at the 3 teams that went down. There were all the 3 teams that came up.
Yeah.
The gap is massive. And that's why frauds like Everton stay in the Premiership. Undeserved. I say undeserved.
Well, it's going to be an interesting season. I tell you what, Kenny, we've been recording now for 1 hour and 40, and we've only predicted 10 scores. So we could talk literally. We could talk all day.
There's only 10 matches.
Only 10 matches. Yeah, don't ever get me and you in a pub talking about football, will you? We'll never get out.
I don't know if your audience are going to be happy with me. They're going to probably think, oh, he goes on, he waffles a lot. And Chris, we only wanted an hour, and it's gone out of 140. I just want to say to all the Spurs fans, thank you for having me on. I apologise for letting it go, but if Chris asks me questions, I've got to answer them.
Absolutely. Yeah, we love having you on. And I'm not just saying this because you're here. You're very fair and honest, and that's why I love having opposition fans on, such like yourself, because you say it exactly how it is, and we prefer your honesty. And you're always very fair, talking about Tottenham in a very.
I know good players when I see them. I do think, when the Poch was in charge, you were an excellent team, but you were unlucky because Man City were too strong, Liverpool too strong. That was it in a nutshell. And your chairman only just didn't want to compete with them. Didn't want to compete. Self-inflicted blow. I felt sorry for the Poch because you needed, there was quality there, and you just needed someone to push Harry Kane for his place, and you needed 2 players for every position. You're basically playing the same team all the time, and it burnt out after the Champions League final. It burnt out. No surprise.
Yeah. Kenny, always such a great guest. Thank you so much. Where can people find you on social media, and what are you up to at the moment?
I'm a Kenny Ken 1972 on Instagram. Twitter is just a cesspit of political views that I didn't ask them to give. Elon Musk is treating Twitter like he's like the Emperor Nero, probably deciding who he wants to kill. 1 minute it's the Labour Party, next minute it's Kamala Harris, and I'm here for the football. So all about Instagram. YouTube, unlike yourself, I don't have the thick skin to do YouTube. I'm sorry, mate. I've seen some of the criticism some YouTubers get, and I swear to God, I don't know how you just don't want to punch a wall with some of the personal comments. You're better than me. You're better than me, I tell you that, because some people are such trolls that it makes their day to have a go at successful people like yourself. It really gives them a kick. I think it's better than getting a girlfriend.
Kenny, what I love is, I actually block more people than I actually follow, and that is a real life fact. And when I block people, the amount of people then screenshot them then posting saying he's blocked me, and it's like they've won a trophy. It's quite weird. It's a weird place, old X. Yeah.
Oh, don't worry about it, mate. It happens, mate. But at the end of the day, you're the one who gets invited to Channel 9 Australia. You're the one who gets invited to Sky Sports. You're the one who's on the most obscure Australian radio channel in Adelaide. I mean, come on, you've achieved something, mate. I mean, Jesus Christ, I think you were the most famous Englishman in Australia, even more famous than David Gower.
I don't know about that. Kenny, thank you so much. We'll see you in a couple of weeks after hopefully Spurs have beat Newcastle and England have had a good international break. Enjoy the international break, and we will see you in a couple of weeks' time. Thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for listening. Kenny, do you want to say anything else?
Well, I don't know. I think I've said it too much. I mean, you only wanted to it's about 43 minutes. I mean, you probably want to watch, like I said, the rerun of Celebs Go Dating. So I'll let you do that.
Thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for listening, and we will see you on the next one. Come on, you Spurs.